Hi, I'm Jen Rogers at Nasdaq Market Site, and this is Breakthrough Economy. Today, we're exploring a revolutionary new technology that is removing carbon from the air and turning it into stone stored deep underground. Could this be the answer to mitigating or even reversing climate change? Joining us to discuss is the co-CEO and founder of Climeworks, Christoph Gebald. So Christoph, I am so excited to talk with you because Climeworks is already using this technology, and honestly, it almost sounds like fiction. So can you explain how the company removes and stores CO2? How does it work?
Climeworks builds CO2 collectors, as we call them, and those CO2 collectors suck in ambient air. And as we all know, ambient air, atmospheric air, contains CO2. And what our CO2 collectors do is they separate the CO2 from the airstream. So we essentially have two products. We, on the one hand, have air with less CO2 in it, leaving the CO2 collectors. And on the other hand, we have high purity CO2 that we remove from the air. Now, the big question is, what are you doing with the CO2 once you separated it from the air? And the answer we have to that is that we provide it for permanent underground storage. And we're currently doing that in Iceland with a partner called Carbfix, who is responsible to store the CO2 in the ground. And they mix it with water and pump like essentially dissolved CO2. It's like essentially sparkling water back in the ground in porous basalt rock, which we have in Iceland. And in the underground, the rock takes the CO2 back out of the water and binds it permanently on its surface. And in such, we're essentially turning CO2 into stone.
Wow. I mean, right now there's a lot of research and money and innovation going into this space. How would you say that what you're doing is different from the methods that other companies are using right now?
There's a very simple answer to it. We're currently the only ones doing it. No one else is currently operating a plant that is pulling carbon dioxide from the air and provides it for permanent underground storage. As simple as that. Now, of course, there are many more differentiating aspects to what we do in comparison to others. Like, we power our technology with sustainable energy sources, and in such, we make sure that we have low life cycle emissions for the CO2 we're taking back out of the air. On the other hand, it's high quality removal, right? We remove CO2 from the air and we provide it for high durability underground storage. That's like the highest quality CO2 removal you can get.
So where are we in the evolution of the industry and your business? Because it's interesting bringing up the scaling part. Is that what's going to make the difference, or is there another breakthrough on the horizon that you're hoping to achieve, or is it we've got all the technology, we just need to scale this?
Let's start from the end. Like, if we look at climate science, and at the end of the day, we are solving a science problem. In 2050, carbon removal has to pull gigatons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, roughly 5 to 10 gigatons per year. That's like for all of the industry that has to be removed from the atmosphere. Now, how do we get there? I do believe that between 2030 and 2050, we will have a window of roughly 1,000 times scaling. This is exact the same scaling as solar and wind did in the last 20 years. We have the same window between 2030 and 2050 for carbon removal if right policies, etc., are in place. Now, in 2030, to not miss the train for 2050, we have to be operating at megaton capacities. And this is exactly the schedule we are having. Like, we're currently operating a plant in Iceland, we call it Orca. We're just scaling it by 10x to a next facility we're calling Mammoth. And again, a 10x scale for Mammoth, which will happen 2026, 2027, will yield us to megaton platform that subsequently we will scale, so that again in 2030, we have this megaton platform that with a 1000x scale up from 2030 to 2050 will bring us to the homework that we have to fulfill.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Orca? So it opened in 2021. It's the world's first and largest direct air capture and storage plant. It's in Iceland. I'd love to know why Iceland and just what the impact of Orca has been so far.
It's in Iceland because at COP22 in Marrakesh, that was in the year 2016, I was running into the former president of Iceland, Ólafur Grímsson, who told me that his vision has always been that we can pull carbon dioxide and store it again in the ground. Now, what in Iceland has been started several decades ago is to research how CO2 can be safely stored in the underground. What has been lacking was a piece to capture CO2 from the atmosphere. As a consequence, we were both excited to meet because we were bringing those pieces together. And as a consequence of that, we started a pilot plant back in 2017 in Iceland, like a small pilot to test the environment. And based on those learnings in 2021, we launched Orca, which again is the world's first and largest air capture facility. Now, what is the impact? Orca shows that carbon dioxide can be removed from the atmosphere with machines and stored permanently in the underground. And this has been instrumental for a lot of things, like for corporate offtake. The market is not existing. Like we are currently working at the forefront of building the carbon dioxide removal market. This plant has helped a ton to develop this market because it helps customers to understand what is happening. Same for investors. After we launched Orca, we closed a $600 million financing round, which is by far the largest financing round in our industry. And also that, therefore, Orca has been an amazing platform to offer investors a possibility to diligence. And lastly, policymakers. Like Orca is visited regularly by policymakers from all around the planet. So all in all, it's a very catalytic device, if you want, or we, as our core value, we have inspiring people, and Orca is really inspiring to build up this whole carbon removal ecosystem.
So if you could just quickly and widely scale this technology, do you think that direct air removal has the potential to actually reverse the impact of carbon in the environment? I mean, could it be a silver bullet, or is it part of a larger solution?
Definitely the latter. It's definitely part of the larger solution. I always say we have 20 swim lanes, and on all 20 swim lanes, we have to go all out. There's no such thing as one swim lane. And those swim lanes are drastic emission reductions like electric cars over combustion engines, insulating our houses, LED lighting, maybe work on our diets, reduce less. So the science, again, going back to the teachings of the Science Based Target Initiative, SBTI, 90% of the current emissions have to be reduced and 10% have to be removed. Now, if we're late for reduction, the 10% stake for removal is only increasing. But again, the job we have today with those assumptions is large, and we can achieve it, but we can only achieve it if all of the others are swimming as fast as they can in their swim lanes too.
So ambitious goals are out there. Everybody needs to be working together. What else do you think needs to fall into place in the next few years to change the course that we're on? What is going to lead to the breakthrough that is going to really solve the problem that we're all facing?
The single most catalytic thing for our industry will be moving from a voluntary carbon market to a compliance carbon market, period. Like solar and wind got big when governments stepped in and started to support it. Like feed-in tariffs in the early 2000s, feed-in tariffs in Germany, in Spain, in California, Japan. And those feed-in tariffs over time will bring down the cost and bring up the volumes. And that's the strongest catalyst to moving forward for us.
Christoph Gebald from Climeworks, so exciting to talk with you and hear all that you are working on. Really enjoyed it.